Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And this episode, I've got a very special guest joining me. It is Chris Lights Out Lytle, retired boxer, MMA fighter, bare knuckle fighter, coach, and veteran of the game. So I'm really excited to have Chris on. But before we get into the conversation, I need to take a quick second to tell you about Sleefs.com. Now that's SLEEFS. Now, if you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to go and check out Sleefs. They've got all your active wear and gear and sports gear covered. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you're always hearing me raving about. Now, guys, I've got to say, these dirty boxes are the most comfortable boxes that I own. I actually threw out all my other boxes. They stay dry, they stay fresh, and they've got funky designs on the front to keep that special person in your life giggling when the belt buckle comes undone at the end of the day. So do yourself a favor, go check out Sleeps.com, use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Wherever you're finding us, I appreciate you. If you're checking us out on YouTube, please make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified, all that good shit. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. I appreciate it. It helps us reach more amazing people with more amazing conversations like this one I'm about to get into. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Chris Lights Out Lytle. Yeah! And we're live. What's going on? Chris Lytle, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate your time.
What is happening? Happy to be here, man. Bright and early where I'm at. So excited. This is cool. We have fights tonight. Bareknuckle. So excited to be here. Fired up.
Bareknuckle. Man, I'm really excited to have you on because, like, looking at your, like, if I'm looking at your career on paper, it's like UFC, started in boxing, had a stint there, Bareknuckle, and we're going to get into it all. But, like, since you mentioned Bareknuckle, I want to start off with that because, like, Bareknuckle boxing has really started off in the last few years. And, we've seen a lot of UFC and MMA veterans, but also some of the younger talent, which have seen their contracts expire. And I remember when it first sort of launched, there were some people going, this is so barbaric. This is like bare knuckle boxing. This is like brutality at its most brutal. Compared to like MMA gloves, like, let's be real, they're not very thick when you're throwing hands. Like, as far as bare knuckle boxing compared to like standing and throwing hands in an MMA fight, is there much protection there with the MMA glove?
Man, it is different. It's a lot different. I didn't realize that till my first Bareknuckle fight, but the way I remember when I first saw, I thought the same shit you're talking about. I'm not gonna lie. I remember I go to my gym one day. This is probably 2016. I go to my gym and somebody says, "Hey man, check this out. There's your buddy Joe Riggs," because I'm friends with Joe. Like, he's fighting in Bareknuckle. I said, "What?" I look on it's on Facebook. It says Joe Riggs does bare on shit. God. Okay, sorry. Joe Riggs does Bareknuckle in London. I said, what the hell is wrong with Joe Riggs, man? He's my buddy. Why would he do this? So in my head, I see these guys in a warehouse with bales of hay around just hitting each, So I said, man, what the hell? So I hit play and I start watching, and I'm like, this isn't what I thought. It was in a ring, it had referees, judges, and everything, and it was highly skilled. So after about the second round, I kind of look over at the guy I'm talking. I was like, how do I do this? I had to do it. I changed just like that. Within 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I got to, as a guy who's been fighting since 98, I was there when it was UFC, MMA, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't even MMA. It was NHB back then. No holds barred. It was crazy. You could headbutt. You could knee a guy in the head on the ground. You could do anything. So I'm coming from that background. So I'm thinking I have to do the bare knuckle because this is not what I thought. And as a combative athlete, I have to do it, So I got a hold of people in England and went and did a fight. And it is highly skilled. And the only reason I came out of retirement, I've been retired for 6 years from the UFC. Only reason I did it is when I studied it, you have to be more technical. You have to be better than boxing or MMA. You can't get hit. I've seen fights where guys were losing the whole time, one punch, cut open fight. So, you know what I mean? So you have to be more technical. It's like boxing on steroids. You have to hit and don't get hit. It's the sweeter of the sweet science. And so once I saw that and realized that, I said, okay, I'm going to come out of retirement and do a few fights because I don't want to take the brain damage that boxing does create. And I can go on and on about how boxing will mess you up worse than anything.
Yeah. I feel like with the bare knuckle boxing, as you said, you thought it'd be in a warehouse and all this sort of stuff. I think when you probably when you think of bare knuckle boxing back years and years and years ago, you think that, and that's what, when I first saw it being promoted, I'm going, oh, what's this going to be? Is this going to be like, guys they're picking out of the bar that are out of shape? You know what I mean? The guys that sit on the couch and sit there and go, oh man, that UFC stuff, man, like they took them down jiu-jitsu. I would stand up and try. You know what I mean? Like just these guys that have no idea really what it takes to go in there and fight. But when I started seeing certain guys getting signed, like some ex-UFC guys, I was like, okay, so are they doing this to get the name? And obviously they need names to sort of build up what they're doing. But they also started bringing in current fighters that just sort of let those contracts expire or sort of left the UFC or wherever they were fighting to go and do this. And it was I think for me looking at it, you'd have to be highly skilled as a striker as well, because it's like, man, you could fuck up your hands with one, your main striking hand with one punch, and then where do you go in the fight from that?
Well, that's part of it. It's like, first of all, you don't just go out there and wing punches. You do that, you're going to break your hand. You're going to hurt your hand. You have to be very, you make fun of those people, things to, fight this way. That was for a reason. So these straight punches and you throw these wild hooks and you hit the side of the head, you're breaking, your hands hurt. You can't fight anymore. So you have to be very technical with not only, your defense, how you don't get hit, but your offense, how you hit the guy. You have to target these areas right here. You don't target here. You don't just throw a wild punch. You target the body. You target the right areas. So that's why I keep saying it's more technical. Now, the first level, the early guys, it's so funny, man. Every time me and Sean Wheelock, my commentary partner, we do fighter meetings every time. And we interview every fighter and ask, strategy and all kinds of stuff. And a lot of times their first fight, they're like, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to trade. I'll take one to give one. The second fight, they don't say that. They're like, you can't get hit. And we're like, yeah, I know. We laugh. We're like, man, people have no idea until they get in here. And then they fight once and then their IQ goes up like, oh, shit, I can't do that. No, you can't do that, man. This is bare knuckle. This isn't boxing. That's why I keep telling people, you don't take the head trauma. You'll get cut more. Yeah, it'll be superficial, but I don't care about superficial cuts, man. We're fighters. We got messed up ears and scars anyway. I don't care. I care about my brain working when I'm older. So that's why I love the bare knuckle. I think it should definitely be an option all over the place. If people want to fight bare knuckle, let them fight bare knuckle.
I mean, as far as training for a bare knuckle boxing fight compared to training for a regular boxing fight, what are the differences that really come into play in training for this?
The difference to me is you have to change. I mean, I had to change. I was an inside fighter when it came to boxing. I was a grinder. I got inside. I stayed in the pocket. I pushed you around, tried to make it a dirty, nasty, ugly fight because I don't have real long arms. I'm not extremely fast. I'm just tough and durable. So I would get in there and push people around. And boxing, you can't do that in bare knuckle. I had to work on my getting in and getting out. Get in, land your punches, and get out. Be slick. Use head movement. Footwork to get in, pop, 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 and get out. You can't clinch, which is nice. So you got to work on. That's why it's kind of a cross between, MMA style. You can grab the head, you can pull down, You can hit them. You can fight on the inside. They're not going to break you as long as you're active clinch. So you just had to work on everything. But it made me a lot better of a fighter because I learned how to do the sweet science, how to hit and not get hit. Before, like I said, I was a grinder, so I took a lot less damage in there. But that's another reason I was going to say you're seeing a lot of these older UFC guys are guys who still have fight left in them and they want to fight, but to do bare knuckles so much easier. I don't want to say easier in the train as in it's not hard, but you go in there, I shadow box, I warm up, I hit the bag, hit the mitts, maybe a little sparring, you're done. I mean, dude, that's the first third of your practice for MMA. You cut out the jiu-jitsu, you cut out the wrestling, you cut out the kickboxing. It's so much easier on your body. You get a guy who's been fighting, training 10, 15 years. They got problems. You know, their back hurts, their shoulder. Bare knuckles, so much easier. That is a big allure to a lot of these guys who are like, man, this is so much easier on my body. It extends my career for many years. I still have fight left. I don't want to go through all that stuff. I just don't want to do it. I can't get through a camp. They can get through this camp. So that's why I think you see a lot of guys who like to strike, who are like, I'm just going to do bare knuckle. It's much easier on my body.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you see a lot of MMA fighters, they get injured while in training.
Yeah.
And do you find like it's because they're pushing themselves too much, or they're training too hard, or there could be their sparring partners are going too wild? Like, you know, as in your experience, like, what do you level it down to in why guys keep getting consistently hurt in training?
It's funny, man. Depends on the gym you go to. You know, AKA those guys are just known to go just be brutal. They're always getting hurt. Well, because I'm an old school guy. The only way we knew how to train, we were stupid as could be, man. All we did was go hard. I mean, there was no science behind it. There wasn't like this plyometric workout you do and then you take 8 hours rest. I don't know. We go in there and we beat the shit out of each other every day. Hard. That's all we did. Almost like a fight. We just went hard. The people who still do that kind of stuff, they get hurt a lot. And your body can only hold up to that for so many years. And then you start having all these nagging injuries. I mean, we used to fight through them. I remember, you know, going to Japan and just being hurt and you just fought. It didn't matter. You just fought every time. You always said, if you wait till you're 100%, you're never going to fight because you're going to be hurt all the time. That was just commonplace. That's just how we thought it was supposed to be done, which is cool. And it is, but eventually your body just breaks down. So to me, the guys who are getting hurt a lot, they probably go hard. I don't know how else to train besides to go hard and train like you're going to fight, because when you get in there in the fight, you better have that second gear to kick it into. When you go easy and all of a sudden you have a fight, it's the worst feeling in the world. The worst feeling is when you go out there and the first time like a scramble happens and you stand up, you're like, oh my God, my arms aren't working right. No, they're not working right because you just went really hard. And so if you're not used to that, it's going to be tough. So I only know how to go hard. I know that the sport's evolved and gotten better, but man, all the people who get hurt a lot, they work their ass off.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, you know, obviously I think when you're going in there preparing for a fight and training to fight and this sort of stuff, in a lot of ways, like you have to, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to go in there and just go in and have a fight at 50%. And I think certain, like, you know, in my experience when I train, was like when you're doing certain sparring things, you go, okay, we're not going to really go in there and try and kill each other. But when you're doing drills, stuff like that, you're going and you're pushing yourself to that extra limit. It's not just like, oh yeah, like fucking around when you're in the gym.
And it's so weird because you can't go, you have to have good training partners. That's the main thing. You can't go 100% when it comes to like sparring and everything, because you're going to destroy each other. I mean, I was going there and I still like to spar with people, but you got to, I go light. I just try to hit people and move and work on, you know, the eye seeing what's going on so you can land those punches. But when you throw hard punches, it's just different. That's why the fight's always going to be a different level. Sparring, you should not be going as hard as you can. You really can't if you want to keep good people around, because man, people are going to get wrecked if you go hard all the time. So, but you have to step it up at certain times in training. Like, you know, when you're hitting the bag, you got to go all out. I mean, you might do a thing where you're grappling with the guy and doing takedowns and stand up and hit the mitts as hard as you can, but you just can't spar as hard as you can, or your body's going to be broke down. The human body only has so much of what we do in it, and if you waste it in the gym, I think it's a bad thing.
Well, that's the thing as well. I think you said it when you said experienced training partners as well. Like I've trained in some places where like I've seen guys just doing drills and stuff, and it comes to sparring, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sparring with you because you know what? Someone who's unskilled, or unknowledgeable is going to do more damage to you. Same when they're doing jiu-jitsu or any of that sort of shit, because they don't get it. You know what I mean?
Well,
They don't
of
understand
course.
the seriousness.
We always do that. Like, I ain't going with the new guy, because let's say they do get in a position and they're supposed to turn right. They might go left as hard as they can, and your arm might get, pinched and tray. Like, what are you doing? That was the dumbest thing ever. But they're spastic, they're erratic, and they're going to do crazy shit that might pop your elbow or just pull you right back on the ground and break your wrist. Like, that was a stupid. What are you doing? I'm not going with the new guy. You just can't go with them. You got to let them get better. And even, man, I've been at some gyms, especially when I was boxing. Man, so many different levels of boxer. But I remember I didn't have any amateur fights. I went straight pro in boxing, and I remember I had about 3 or 4 pro fights. And my boxing coach took me to the local gym, and he was like, "Hey, man, it was like Rocky 3. And I don't know if you've seen Rocky 3, where we walk in, only white dude there, and everybody, the music stops. Everybody looks at me, and they're just lining up to get in the ring with it. I'm like, all right, those guys, they threw a new guy in every 2 rounds, and they would go as hard as they can. So these are like straight up fights for 2 rounds, and then I get a new guy, and then I get a new. So I'm wearing down. They throw a new guy, then I'm wearing down. I mean, I'm just by the end, I'm just getting beat by guys who aren't even that great. But I'm just like, I'm just tired. So my guy took me there because he's like, that was basically your amateur career. We're just gonna do that real quick so you can get used to that level. But my point is, these guys do that all the time. They just go in and they beat the brakes off each other in the gym, so they can brag about being the toughest guy from Indianapolis. But I'm like, you're an idiot, because by the time those guys went pro, they were shot. They didn't have great pro careers because they had great amateur careers, because they were the toughest guy in that gym. But you don't waste your time being the toughest guy in that gym. You want to have guys who you spar with, who can work with you, who teach you, okay, when you slip into the left, I'm landing this uppercut, and teach you not to do that. These guys would keep doing it because they want to be the toughest guy in that gym. So it all depends. You want to be the big fish in a small pond, or do you want to be a shark in the ocean? So that's what you're trying to do, is become the best fighter in the world, not the best fighter in this little gym. That's crazy. But a lot of people have that mentality. A lot of people want to be the gym tough guy, and you don't want to train with that guy, because you can't get good work in. You can't learn in that realm. And by the time you do learn, you're going to have your brain's going to be messed up.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting. I used to train with a coach, a boxing coach, and this guy by far was probably the best boxing coach I ever trained with. And I remember the first training session I trained with him, we're all doing bag work, and he just looked around. He's like, nah, stop. Everyone take your gloves off. Patty cake. I'm like, what the fuck is patty cake? And he was literally, and everyone just started playing patty cake with the bag. And I asked him after the thing, I was like, what's that about? He goes, us as men, as soon as we put on like a boxing glove, we get this testosterone, and we don't think about what we're doing. We're trying to do technique. We're not trying to be. He goes, you take that off, and now your little girl's playing on a bag, playing patty cake. So now you're thinking about where it's going, what you're doing, and you do the same combination. So I think that there's different, I think, training styles as well, and gyms that have good coaches can kind of see, okay, no worries, this is getting a bit out of hand. We need to sort of do things, because you think doing something like that with a bunch of fighters, you're like, what the fuck are we doing? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think your coaching is extremely important, and having somebody you trust, you, knows you. I think it's I don't know if it's funny, sad, whatever. You have a lot of high level fighters. You see guys who are UFC level, and they'll fight, and then all of a sudden they'll lose a fight or something, and they'll leave their gym that they've been at for 5 years, and they're traveling to American Top Team now, or they're going somewhere in Florida, and they're like, I'm gonna change to this team. And I'm like, all right, cool, that's good. But all of a sudden, you come in as an experienced fighter. Now they don't know you. They don't have that relationship with you. They didn't develop you. All of a sudden, it's a business transaction, And if somebody else has a fight coming up, they're throwing you in to the mix to help train with that guy. But I don't know. You need to have somebody in there. It shouldn't be just a business relationship. It should be somebody who actually cares about you and wants to see what's best for you if possible. And sometimes that's not the case. And they'll go there, and it's not necessarily the guy who was training with you. Maybe you just lost a fight, and then all of a sudden you go to the other place, you lose a couple fights here, and you move to another gym. Now, I think it's better if you have somebody who's actually emotionally invested in you and has a care if you do well or not. But that just depends. If the gym's not good, if you have a bad trainer, then you need to find a good one. But I mean, a lot of times people have good trainers and they leave them, and then their career is like they're always looking for answers and excuses for why they lost. And sometimes you didn't do the right thing, or you just, it's fighting, man. You're gonna lose sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, also the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's
Exactly.
do you think it's like people, because like you see the UFC, like once you get like maybe 2 losses, 3 losses, you're getting cut. So once you get to that second loss, like do you think like fighters then, and this is probably like saying UFC, but like do you think fighters for the UFC after that second loss, they start going, holy fuck, all right, I'm on my second loss, like if I don't win, I've got to change something? Do you think it comes down to a level of panic?
Oh, of course, man. I mean, people always looking for answers, looking for trying to justify what happened and why. It's hard to look in the mirror and be like, I didn't do this right. I didn't go as hard as I could. I'm not as good as I thought, or whatever it is. So people are looking for answers like, okay, I'm not going with the good enough guys. I'm not going with the good enough coaches. I need to go here. Sometimes that is true. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it is. If you are limited with the number of training partners you have to do something about it. But sometimes I think it's just you guys from good, like who just gym hop. They'll be an American Top Team, then they're Black Zillions, and then they're Henry Hoof. I mean, sometimes it's just a person looking for excuses and can't really deal with the fact that they didn't do as much as they should have to win this fight, and just keep jumping around. But yeah, you do need to continue evolving this, and if you're not evolving, then you need to change something up. Your coach needs to go learn some new things, or do some new training tactics. You do have to continue to evolve, get new sparring partners, something, because man, I mean, it's so competitive right now and so tough to be involved in MMA.
Oh, absolutely. And talking about MMA, I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned it earlier. You started fighting in '98, MMA '99, where you first sort of moved into that. When you first saw MMA, like were you like the rest of us, saw UFC 1 and was like, what's going on here? What is this? And like, was that what really hooked you into wanting to go down that path?
Not at all, man. I didn't even see UFC 1. The first one I saw was UFC 4, and I remember I was like, I sat there watching. It was when like Hoyce Gracie fought Dan Severn. I was like, dude, this Dan Severn guy's just, I was a former wrestler, and he was a big wrestler, just slamming people. I'm like, dude, nobody's gonna beat this guy. He's just killing everybody. And then that little Hoyce choked him. I was like, what the hell just happened, man? How did that happen? I didn't really think much about it for a couple of years, and then one of my buddies from wrestling said, hey, man, come to this gym. I've been doing this stuff called shoot fight. I'm like, what the hell's shoot fight? And he's like, it's like wrestling, but you can choke people and you can punch. Like, all right, I'll come. And so I started training at this gym, and immediately I was a good wrestler. So I was like dominating a lot of these guys, and I was like, hey, this is fun when you're, since 98, the sport was still like 4 years old. I was like, this is fun. And I went and watched a fight they put on, and after that, I was like, "Oh man, I'm doing this. I gotta get in here and do this, because you have this competitive edge as a wrestler. After high school, there's no more wrestling anymore unless you're trying to train for Olympics or college. Like I ain't doing all that stuff. So it gave me an outlet to try and continue to do that competitive fire that you had in you, man. I mean, it's not like you can go out and it's not like if you were a basketball player, you can be like, oh, I'm gonna go out to the neighborhood and play basketball. You don't go out there and just start wrestling. There's nothing to do, man. You know what I mean? So you got to do something. I found that gym. I was like, hell yeah, this is where I want to be. Man, the idea of UFC, I never even thought that was possible. Then I started having some fights and winning. And then a guy from my gym was going over to Pancrase over in Japan. I was like, oh my God, go in Japan. This would be the coolest thing ever if I could just go there. And eventually I got it. And that's how my career started.
And how'd you find, going over to Pancrase?
Man, I loved it. It was so good. Like I started over there in '99, and like you got to understand, it was big over there. I would say it was more well recognized in Japan than the UFC was here. I mean, when I fought for the UFC in 2000, it was cool, but it wasn't that big of a deal there. But when you go to Japan, they pick you up at the airport, sign. I had little baseball cards made out, little kids that come up and get pictures, and I'd bring the card, I'd sign. I mean, you were a big deal. You were a big athlete over there. You were treated like a professional athlete in '99 and 2000. You weren't treated like that here. People looked at, man, if you talked about fighting in a cage here, people looked at you like you said, you eat babies for breakfast. They looked at you like, huh? They'd kind of take a couple steps back. Thought you were a lunatic, man. They did. There's lunatic fights in a cage. I've seen that on TV, but over there they accepted it. They really respected the fighters for how hard they had to work. You know, sumo's really big there, and fighting's really big there. So man, I love going over to Japan. You got treated the way you should have got treated.
Were you doing the MMA fights over there, or were you doing like the pancration style fighting where they'd like do the open ham strikes and the submission?
Yeah, I did both, man. I mean, anything. Sometimes I'd go over there and it'd be you. I remember you had someone you could headbutt, you could kick a guy in the head on the ground, you could do whatever. And sometimes it'd be the pancration rules. Anything they did, you know, I was in. I would do either, man. I just like going over there. It was treated well, and I love the Japanese culture, man. They're so respectful. Like you could leave your wallet on the street, just walk away, come back 5 minutes later, it's still gonna be there. I mean, they just treat people well. I really like how they do things, so I really enjoy my time there.
I heard like also like during sporting events and stuff like that, they're very compared to like Western countries where it's like, you know, people cheer, hoot, holler, all that sort of stuff. But the Japanese crowds are almost silent.
It's nuts, man. You're in the ring and you're fighting, and you watch. I would watch a videotape later, actually VHS tape, because that was back such a long time ago. But you can hear the fighters breathing, you know, and you can hear like my corner. You could hear every word they say because there's no noise. Like they're dead silent watching, and then like you start to get a guy in an armbar, and everybody starts cheering. They start and then like you'll get out of the armbar, they'll clap, and then it's silent again. Like they understand exactly what's going on. There's none of this stand them up, ref, like get up. There's none of that. Kick his ass, see, that's not there. You know what I mean? They highly respect the athletes and they treat them the right way. So I was like, man, it was different. It takes a minute to get used to, but then it's all due to respect, man. That's why I love that culture is all about respect.
Yeah, I'm the same. I love that Japanese culture and just how they are. Like I've seen like sporting events over there where it's football matches, you know, MMA, boxing, whatever fights, all that sort of stuff. And it's always interests me how silent that they are, and it comes down to the respect for, you know, what they're watching, really.
Respect and knowledge. They know when somebody's about getting submitted by a sneaky move, and they'll start cheering like he's getting and like a lot of times you'll see around here, like, what did he get him with? Why did he tap out? Well, he had him in a triangle choke. Well, why did he? Well, these guys get that. They understand how close somebody gets to getting submitted, and and when a guy gets out, then they clap for that too. You know, I'm like, man, that was good defense. That was good offense. They understand what's going on. So highly educated crowd.
Did you ever try your hand at Japanese jiu-jitsu?
No, man. I was a pure I was a wrestler, and I don't even do jiu-jitsu. I mean, at one point they used to always say he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, I've never owned a gi. You know, I don't do. I'm a catch wrestler. Basically, what I would do is try and figure out. I mean, all I ever wanted to do was fight. I didn't want to be a jiu-jitsu guy. I didn't want to. So all I learned was how to submit people and how to stay out of submissions for fighting. You know, like so. I don't know any gi chokes. I don't know how to use like a belt to roll people with. All I know is if you put two hands on my one hand and do an armbar, I'm punching you right in the nose. You know what I mean? So that makes it different. That's why I don't do jiu-jitsu. People always think I do, but I catch wrestling with boxing and a little bit Muay Thai. That's all I really did.
I always found like, you know, wrestlers in MMA were always like, I don't know, like they just a superior fighter in a level away. And you see a lot of wrestlers who end up being such, you know, phenomenal strikers like Ryan Bader, Rashad Evans, you know, yourself, you know, like, you know, these guys that are just absolute beasts of wrestlers, but like, you know, Daniel Cormier as well, like, but like, man, throw hands can knock people out fucking clean.
Yeah, man. I mean, what it is a lot of times you got they just got the mindset, you know, and wrestling, I think, is the best thing in the world for that. It's such a tough sport. It's one of the few things that, like, man, it's a grind. Those guys who do that are just a different mindset, I believe. And so knowing that you take that mindset and you move that over to boxing, you're going to be good at pretty much anything you do. And if you're just a hard-nosed, tough guy with the body structure that can hit hard, you're going to be good at that sport, you know, and you have the work ethic. If you're going to be a good wrestler, you got work ethic. You have to work hard at everything. The difference between wrestling and most sports, I always thought, was, you know, if I play football, if I play soccer, whatever, and I train real hard, I get done, I'm done. I go take a shower, I go home and eat, it's done. It's out of my mind. When you're a wrestler, it's on your mind 24/7. You got the weight cut you got to think about, you know, and when you can't eat, when you're trying to lose 10 pounds after practice, I mean, it just dominates your life. You can't think about anything else really. So that's why I always thought wrestling was different. It makes only mentally tough people can do that. Because if you're not mentally tough, you got to lose a lot of weight, you're going to crack. And a lot of people do.
Yeah, and I think because it's so much like of the mental as well. Because it's like as soon as you start letting that shit weigh on your mind, that's when it's like everything starts getting harder. The weight cut, the training, the dieting, the not eating, all that sort of shit. But I think you've got to be like very strong mentally as well as physically to do that.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, to me, fighting everything is very, very mental. I mean, so there's some, you know, what's the amazing thing? I'm sure you've been around gyms like there's guys who were in the gym. You're like, man, this guy's awesome. He's gonna have a great career. Nope, he can't do it when he gets in the ring or of the cage. He just breaks. And then again, I've also seen other guys who submit a lot and like, man, this guy's tough, but you know, I can get it. And they kill it in the ring, you know. So you just never know. Some people mentally step up in the ring, and some people mentally fold in the ring. You just never really know. But that's all mental toughness, man. Some guys who overachieve, underachieve, all based on your just mental toughness. And I don't know how to work on that. I don't know if you're just born with it or something that happens in your life that develops that. But mental toughness to me is the most important thing you can have.
Do you find like, you know, like getting in the ring and having a fight in front of a live crowd? Do you think the live crowd and, you know, a large live crowd just gets in the guys' heads before they go out and fight?
I mean, it does some people. That's where I think that mental toughness comes in. But I think that you should just, if you've had a lot of experience, like as a wrestler, I mean, a one-on-one sport, you go out there and it's just you and that other person, and I'm going to dominate you or you're going to dominate me. I think that helps prepare you for it. That's why I think wrestlers do so well. They got the mindset for it. They've had years and years of training for it. They're not worried about it. I think it's just a different mentality that they have. And that's why, you know, when they've had 300 wrestling matches in their career, you know, you've been training for this your whole life. You didn't even know it.
Let me ask you. So in 2002, you went over and from 2002 to 2005, you went and did some boxing and had like a pretty great boxing record, really, on paper. It looks amazing. You know, was it because like we looking at going, okay, I want to try something else, or like boxing is where my heart really lies? Like, did you want to walk away from MMA? Were you thinking like a career in boxing is going to be more, you know, prominent for you? Like, what was your thought going into boxing?
Man, I went to boxing just to get better at boxing. You know, I went there to a boxing gym just to be like, man, I need to work on my hands, my stand-up, just to be a better all-around fighter. And I went to a boxing gym for about a month. And then, but the boxing coach was like, hey, he called me. He's like, hey, man, we have an opportunity for you to fight on a pro boxing card, on the ESPN2 card if you want. And I was like, when? He's like, 6 days. I was like, shit. All right. I was like, sure. And he was like, all right. So he brought me up there, and I talked to him later. He's like, they just said I need a tough guy. I was fighting a guy who had like 50 amateur boxing fights, 2-0 as a pro, and I had no amateur fights, no pro fights. So I was being brought up. I was fighting like a Native American on an Indian reservation, you know, his reservation. I was brought in to lose. Yeah. And so I go in there and they said I beat him the whole fight. They ended up calling the fight a draw. It was my first fight. But afterwards, a guy named Pete Sousa for Top Rank Boxing was the guy, and he brought me. He was like, dude, he's like, you were supposed to come in here and get killed. He's like, man, you beat that guy. I'm like, all right. And he's like, what's your name? And he said, I told him Chris Lytle. He's like, Lytle. He's like, I'm going to call you Lights Out because you're going to knock a bunch of people out. I'm going to start getting you fights. That's how I got my nickname. So I was like, all right. And then he started setting me up with some boxing matches, and I started knocking some people out, and then they really liked me. And they were like, oh, we're going to get this guy more fights. And, you know, so for the next 3 years, I ended up with 15 pro boxing matches. And, you know, at one point, I almost got on this boxing reality show. And if I'd went down that path, I wouldn't have been able to sign with UFC anymore, you know, because I was fighting with UFC at the same time I was doing this stuff. So that would have taken me down a totally different path. But I was lucky. They were decided between the weight class 168 or 147. They said, if we get 168, you're in. I was like, all right. They went with 147. So all right, I didn't get on that show. But then I got on the Ultimate Fighter like less than a year later. So
was that the Contender?
Yeah, it was the Contender, like the second one with like I think Sugar Ray Leonard and Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, so they brought me in to do the second one, and the weight class didn't work out. But I'm glad it didn't work out because, man, like I said earlier, I've seen a lot of boxers with a lot of lot of brain damage. My style, I would have probably had problems if I'd have kept doing that style of fighting, because as a level of competition gets tougher. Unfortunately for me, I'm too tough for my own good. I think I have more balls than brains, and I just got my brains beat in, as I would have beat other people's brains into. But man, all my favorite fighters are like that. Arturo Gatti, these guys, they just fought wars and they entertained people, and I loved it. And they were just mentally not there anymore at the end, man. So,
do you feel like some fighters, we talk about the importance of a good coach and the care level as well? You'd think that like the coaches would have to have this certain level of being able to save the fighter from themselves, right? Like, because like look at Chuck Liddell, for example, like his later UFC career before he sort of came back in, like, dude, like when I was younger watching MMA, it's like Chuck Liddell was the fucking man. He'd go in there and just smoke guys, right?
yeah.
And then near the end of his career, it's like, dude, like it was like, I don't want to say it was sad to watch him fight, but it was sad seeing him like get knocked out by guys that, it's like almost these guys taking a fight to go, yeah, I can get an easy win here over Chuck Liddell. You know what I mean? Like,
it was terrible to see, man. And that's what I talked about earlier, about having coaches who actually brought you up and care about you. Like, I remember my coaches when I first, my second pro boxing match, we went, and the guy who like checked us in, I couldn't understand what he was saying. I looked at my coach, and he knew that it bothered me, because I was like, man, and he's like, don't worry, we're not ending up like that. And I'm like, how do you know? He goes, Chris, we ain't going to drive this car till the wheels fall off. And I was like, I knew what he meant. He's like, all right, we'll stop when the right time is. And he was always talking to me about that. He's like, when I say this, your career is over, it's over. Don't go to some other coach. If I say it's over, I'm doing it for a reason. I was like, all right. I remember one of my fights, I had a war, and he was like, all right, you got 4 more. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're not doing more than 5 wars. That's it. That's going to be you can't have more than 5 wars. Like, you can have 50 fights. I don't care. But if the next 4 fights are wars, you're done. That's just how it's going to be, because you can't do that. Your brain can only take so much. And that's the thing in the gym, in the fights, you can only take so many shots. And that's the thing with like Chuck. He was unbelievable for so long. Just one of the only guys I've ever seen who could be backing up and hit you and still knock you out. But at the end of the day, you train so much, you get hit so much. When that chin goes, it goes. And people need to recognize that. You have to have the right coach who has an exit strategy and a plan, and say, you're not going to continue to fight. You're not going to end up just mentally, in a bad way. And not only that, but your legacy, man. You got to look at the way people look at you. I was lucky. When I left the UFC, I won 5 out of my last 6 fights, won like the main event, and walked away on top. I was very fortunate to do that, because I don't see many guys do that. Most guys get knocked out 3 out of their last 4 fights, and they tell them, you're done. You know what I mean? But I could look back at my career with a positive thought. Not many people leave fighting with a positive thought in the back of their head.
Well, I don't want to skip past stuff, but like, touching on that is like I remember when you did retire, and your last fight, you said, win, lose or draw, I am walking away, and you walked away, for what my understanding was to be, have more time with your family, which is commendable, because I don't think many people would be at the highest point of being such a huge organization, being on the run that you were on, and go, win, lose or draw, I'm walking away, go out there. And I take my hat off to that, because it's like you stepped away from the game on your own terms. It wasn't someone saying, hey, Chris, we need to have a chat. It's like, nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
to be able to go and do it on your own terms, I feel like you have to be even more mentally strong than to keep going, even though you shouldn't be, because I think that shows going, hey, you know what? I want to go out on top. I want to go out my way, not being forced out the door.
Man, that was one of the toughest things they had to do, because I'll tell the whole story exactly what happened there. But it was like, I loved UFC, and it was so cool being there as that thing grew from nothing. Something people like I said, looked at you like you're crazy for doing, to become an accepted mainstream. It was awesome, and I love being part of it. Very proud to be a part of that organization. But so, I've had 4 kids the whole time I was training and fighting, pretty much. With my wife, didn't have to work because she raised the kids. So my job was to be going working and making money for the family. I was also a full-time firefighter the whole time. So just trying to manage having 4 kids, work a full-time job, and train full-time. I didn't have any time to do anything else. People would always ask me, like, what else? What are your hobbies? I'm like, I don't have any hobbies. Like, do you like to play golf?
Yeah.
Never play golf. Do you hunt? I've never been hunting in my life. Like, I don't do anything. I don't. How do you have time to do anything else? I wish there was 30 hours in a day. There's only 24. I can't do what I want. You know what I mean? So that's all I did. And you don't know how many times trying to train full time and fight these guys, how many of my kids' events I had to miss. Like, I didn't go to a lot of my son's basketball games. I missed my daughter's gymnastics meet and cheerleading. I was at the gym. I had to be. Like, I'm not going to lose my fight because I wanted to, I'm not going to go on national or pay-per-view and get beat up in front of the world because I went to my son's basketball game. It's not going to be an option. So that was my life for many years. So I remember, I'm on a streak or win 4 in a row. I go to Australia, I lose a fight, and I'd had like knee surgery right before that, like a month before the fight. So I didn't rehab it. I just took the fight anyway, like because I'm an idiot and I can't back out of a fight because I feel like a coward. So I took the fight, and then after that fight, I said, okay, I'm going to take a month and rehab my knee. So I took a month. And at that time, I went to my son's basketball games. I went to the gymnastics meet and the cheerleading. And the UFC called me. Then they go, we want you to fight Dan Hardy in the main event. I'm like, yes. So I go to the gym that day. And as I'm driving to the gym, the first time ever, I felt like a weird sense of guilt. Like I'd never felt that, and I was just like, I should be at a basketball game. I felt weird when I was at those games because people be like, hey, Chris, man, good to see you here. What are you? And I was like, I just felt weird. Like, man, I felt like a complete failure in many ways as a father. It's like I got these kids and I'm not there, and I remember talking to a guy and he was telling me how, it's hard as a man. He wanted to be successful to help pay for his daughter's stuff. And he realized he did that very well. But when he realized she was in college by this time and he didn't know his daughter and he lost that time, he's never going to get it back. I remember him telling me that. And I remember thinking, that's me. That's going to be me. My kids are going to be growing. I'm not going to know who they are. So I went to the gym. I trained. I came back and I talked to my wife. And I was like, man, I can't do this. And we talked and we're like, all right, this will be your last fight. And after that, that gave me the freedom to be like, all right, I'm going to train my ass off. I'm not going to lose my last fight. You know what I mean? So then I went to the gym. I trained my ass off for the next 6 weeks. And I won the fight. But I made the decision. I wrote that letter, gave it to Dana at the weigh-ins. Like, I'm done. I mean, no matter what happens, this is it. But that's why, I felt like the unbelievable amount of pressure on that fight because you want to win your last fight. And, like a lot of people, they fight. If they win, then they're going to retire. And if not, they're going to fight again. But I was like, I'd already made that decision. I'm not fighting again. I got to be around my kids before they get to. I mean, my son was a freshman in high school. I was like, he's almost done. He's almost out of here. I can't lose these next 4 years. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Did anyone try like from the UFC, like or like from your coaches, try and keep you going? Nah, man, like just give it 1 or 2 more years. Like don't leave now. Did they try and did the UFC try and dangle the carrot and say, look, man, come and stay. We'll offer you this.
Man, no. Dana at one point said, man, you can fight as long as you ever want to fight here. You have a home. You can always fight here. But when I did that, I think in a way, I really think. I hope, I don't really know, they never really talked to him about this, but I think they liked the way I went out because, like I said, I hope they use that as an example to some other guys, like, hey, man, don't stick around and just keep getting brain damage. Don't stick around and ruin your legacy. Don't stick around and keep losing. It makes you look bad. And be honest with you, like Dana, he likes the fighters. He like, I know what happened. He loved Chuck Liddell. When that happened to him, I know it hurt him. You know what I mean? So I don't think he liked that. And I think he wants people to go out on their own terms. So I think I'm hoping they like to use me as an example. Hey, man, maybe you should do something like that instead of going down the other path. Because like I said, I don't know many people who go out with a positive streak. Most people are just on a negative streak.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned earlier The Ultimate Fighter, and I wanted to discuss that because your season, The Ultimate Fighter Redemption, where they brought back guys who had fought in the UFC, didn't have the best records in the UFC, or had 1 or 2 fights. Yourself, I believe you had 3 fights prior in the UFC, prior going on to The Ultimate Fighter. But how did the opportunity to be on that come to be for you?
Man, You know, it's funny because a lot of us fighters, who were in the UFC, we're fighting, and we'd see these people on the Ultimate Fighter, and we're like, man, these guys, they're not that good, but they're getting hyped up, man. Everybody's talking about these guys because they see them, you know, and we're like, they're getting good sponsors. Like, man, this bullshit, you know what I mean? But then, so I got the opportunity. I got a phone call from Joe Silva. Like, hey, man, and I think Dana White had him call me once too. Like, we want you on the Ultimate Fighter at the comeback. I was like, hell yeah, dude. Where do I sign up? You know, I'm going to get the exposure. I'm going to get to be in there and train for real. Yeah, that'll be great because I knew what it did for people, what it did for their career. People got to all of a sudden know them as a person, not just a guy they saw fighting. So they just called me and asked me to be part of it. And there was no tryouts or anything. They just brought me out and interviewed me, and that was it, man. It was great because they brought me out and you had like a group of other fighters you were with, and I knew a lot of those fighters. So it was just a fun time to hang out with guys. But I mean, being on the show was awesome. You got to train with some of the best guys in the world. You know, Randy Couture is one of your coaches, George St. Pierre. It's like, man, this is a opportunity I never really had to go and just train. You know, didn't want to worry about anything. You know, I was away from my wife and kids and job, and I just got to train for 6 weeks. Like that's the only thing in my life. It was a lot of fun.
How did you find being away from home for 6 weeks? Because you seem like a loving family guy, man. So I can imagine that would have been like one of that probably the hardest point for you, right?
Without a doubt. But you know what? Like, it was very tough. But me being a very goal-oriented person, my mindset was like, this is going to be the means to end for a lot of things. You know, if I do well on here, this is going to take care of a lot of stuff for my family, you know? So I don't mind sacrifice if there's a payout at the end of the long journey. And I knew this was going to be the path to do it. So, you know, when I went there, you know, I wasn't there to play around. I wasn't there to drink and have fun and party. I didn't drink at all when we were on the show, man. I was there. I was there to fight. I was there to get better. I was there to make money. That was my whole goal for my family. So with that mindset, I don't mind sacrifice if there's something at the end. But it was tough, man. You know, I'd never been away from my kids for that long, so it was rough. But like I said, I always keep my eye on that prize, and the prize of going out there and giving my kids a better life.
Did you find, like, with the Ultimate Fighter, was it like, is this reality TV shows? Like, was there producers like coming up to you guys going, hey, like maybe you can sort of, you know what I mean? Like, hey, stir up a bit of drama. Maybe you just, hey guys, here's a bunch of beers. See where this goes.
That part's true. Now they would never say anything to us, but it was funny. Like if you said something like, hey man, we got no paper towels, they'd be like, you get on the phone, they'd be like, all right, we'll bring it in. And then maybe 10 minutes later it gets there. But if you said we're out of vodka, you can't get the K out in vodka, and then somebody is running it in there. Here's the vodka. You know what I mean? Like they encourage you to do stupid shit, but they don't ever say do stupid shit. You know what I mean? It's not scripted, but it's encouraged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. It's reality TV. They want to see these guys.
They want drama. They want fights. They want people, doing all kinds of stupid stuff.
Like, how did you find, like, going in there? Because it's like there was no real designated coaches for the UFC comeback. It was kind of like, there's people there, that are, giving you guidance, like Randy Couture, George St. Pierre, Mark Lehman, which, the infamous scene with Mark Lehman and Matt Serra, which to me, I remember watching it when it happened on TV and just thinking this is the greatest thing in the fucking world. I fell in love with Serra at that point. I was going, this guy is fucking money.
Man, I fell in love with Serra like the first day, dude. Like Matt's such a good dude. He's one of the guys. It's fun. Like here's what I tell people like Matt. A lot of people are like, oh, he's a loudmouth. It's like, no, he's fun. And if you're in a group of like 5 people and one guy's kind of over there being quiet, like Matt's a guy who wants to include him and make him feel comfortable in his head. He'll do anything for anybody. Super good guy. But I remember when that happened, I was just I was like, hell yeah, because he was right, man. I mean, Lehman's in here talking trash about another fighter. I'm like, you don't even fight. Shut the hell up. You don't get the right to talk like that, man. Until you get ready to get in there and do it. And it was one of it was talking about Hoyce Gracie, the founder of a lot of what people watch because of, it was just out of line, I think, as a coach. And, man, fighters don't talk about other fighters like that, but he's not a real fighter. So shut the hell up, man. Don't talk about it around Matt, that's one of his guys. It's one of his buddies. You don't talk trash about him like that. He's a Henzo guy, so no. I loved it, man. Matt, and that's Matt. He's going to stand up for you at all times. And If he's your friend, he's your friend. He's not gonna let anybody say anything bad. I loved it, man. That was great. But like, it was funny, at different level. Like everybody respect the hell out of St. Pierre, who was a great guy. I mean, I didn't really know him much before that, but man, George is such a nice person. Like you always want good things to happen to him because he's genuine. And Randy, like Randy could have told us, he's like, okay, today we're gonna go swim through that lake with alligators in it. We'd have been like, damn it, all right. You know, people would have done it if Randy asked you to. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
We had good coaches. It was awesome. They gave us some great information, but it wasn't like they were coaching both teams. So they were just giving you advice, because I like what they said. Like, you guys have been around for a long time. Some of you guys have more fights than these coaches. We can't have these guys coaching you and telling you what to do when you can be teaching them what to do in many ways. You know what I mean? They were just really high level fighters. So I love the concept. I love everything about it.
Yeah. And, going in from that, you did make the finale for that, facing off against Matt Sarah, who did eventually go on to win. And, you guys did have a rematch of that which you were successful in that match. I really found like the Ultimate Fighter finale and that match. And I rewatched it recently the other day, and I'm like, man, because I think it was like, it was a split decision, two judges for him, one to you. And I was like, like even watching it, like I watched it the other day and I watched it back straight after, like I watched it back to back, and I'm like, that's a hard fight to call. Like, I would hate to be a judge in that. Like, did you, like, looking back at it now, like years later, do you, like, when you sit there and think about the fight, or whether you go back and ever watch it, I don't know, but like, do you feel like that was your fight, that you won that fight, or do you feel like he won it on all aspects?
Back then, I fully thought I won it, back then. And looking back now, I can see, here's a weird thing. I've never seen a fight judged like this, because first of all, it was the worst fight I've ever been involved with. It was boring as hell, and there's a reason for it. The winner got like $200,000, a contract to fight for the title, a new car, all this stuff. The loser got 10 grand, nothing. So I was just like, so much pressure was on that. And both me and Matt both had we were both afraid to lose. You weren't fighting to win, you're fighting to not lose. That's both of us. And we've talked about that. And I don't think they should ever put that kind of pressure on people where if you win, you get that much. If you lose, you get basically nothing. It wasn't a good setup. So we both had the same mindset: go in there and don't lose. So he starts pushing me against the fence. And in my mindset, I'm like, my mindset was stop the takedown, you win the fight. He's pushing me against the fence and trying to step on my feet. And I'm like, I'm stopping the takedown. So I'm like hitting him in the side and hitting him in the face. Not hard, but in my mind, what I'm thinking is, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm doing like a 2 damage, not much, but I'm like, but he's doing 0. So I'm like, I'm winning. So every time he pushed me against the fence, I was like, cool, the ref isn't stopping us because I'm hitting him. So I'll just sit here and keep hitting him and win the fight. That was my mindset. I think I ended up taking him down twice. He took me down once. So I was like, all right, this is a very close fight, but I feel like I'm winning. I feel like no matter what, I'm doing the damage he's not. That was my mindset. And you could tell the judges didn't know what to do, because 2 of them gave him all 3 rounds, and 2 of them, and the one gave me all 3 rounds. So I've seen split decisions, but never that far apart. You know what I mean? That's a weird split decision. And I know why, because nobody knew how the hell to judge that. Are you giving it to the guy who's pressuring the guy against the fence, or are you giving it to the guy who's landing little nothing shots? Looking back, I understand now. I think, if you push a guy against a fence, they're considering that ring control. So, okay. They're saying his ring control was more than my damage, because, he had a little bruise on his face and his side was red, but it wasn't much. It was just a horrible fight, and you could flip a coin and say one. Back then, I thought I won. Now I would say, okay, I can see you give it to either guy, really. But to me, that's not I don't even care anymore. The reason I don't was because when I lost, that devastated me, man. I thought I won. I was going to get my title shot. I was going to get my money, all the stuff I worked for. It was going to come true, and then it didn't. It just I was like, I almost wanted to quit fighting. I was like, man, what am I doing this for? I wasted all my time. I didn't get all my money for my kids. I didn't get all this stuff. And then after, it woke me up at 3 a.m. for a while, and I couldn't get back to bed. It killed me. And then I remember I was like, you know what? I was like, what are you mad about? What are you so upset about, Chris? Is it the money? Or is it you didn't get your title fight, or what is it? And then I was like, man, it's you didn't earn your stuff for your kids, And so I was like, well, they're giving away bonuses now. I was like, you're gonna get that money back from you. I don't care how you do. I don't care if you have to have 100 fights. You're gonna get your kids that money that you owe them. That's how I looked at it. So, I mean, I kind of changed up my style a lot, and I was like, you know what? I mean, I've lost bigger fights than this. I'm just gonna go in and fight now. I don't care what happens. I'm gonna go out there and try and knock people's heads off. And if I don't knock them out, I'm gonna try as hard as I can to submit them. And after I started fighting like that, I think in my next 13 fights, I won 10 bonuses. Because I didn't, not that I didn't care, but I just let it fly. I just let it fight. I just fought then and didn't think about wins or losses. I just thought about going out there and trying to fight. And after I did that, I got more fans, I got more money. And so I feel now like if I hadn't had that loss, maybe I don't have that mindset. Maybe I don't, like now I think no matter what you do to me, you can't hold me down. I'm gonna succeed no matter what. That's how I feel because I've done it before. Like I overcame my obstacles and I'm gonna do it again no matter what. So I credit that loss with bringing me to this point. Some losses can destroy people. I think it made me a better person. And without me going through that, I don't know. I just feel like I'm better for dealing with adversity and coming out the other side when some people don't do that. Some people fold and just can't get over it.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like every successful person has a backstory of pain and hurt and and struggle, and I think that's where like they get to a point like where you've achieved in your career. You can look back and appreciate what you have now, appreciate what the fact that you did get out of 13 fights, performance of the night or knockout of the night, submission of the night for 10 of those 13 fights because of that mindset of going, you know what, I went through, I struggled. And you said yourself, waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, really messing with your head about this loss where you went, you know what, bang, this is what I'm going to do. And I think you appreciate the good once you've gone through that struggle.
That's 100% accurate, man. And I look at anybody. I always tell people, I've talked to people about who are getting bullied and everything. I'm just like, man, look at anybody who's done some great things. There's a lot of pain behind that. There's something that motivates people, that's something that makes you work harder. And that loss made me work harder, man. It made me in the gym. I was like, I'm not going to gas out. I'm not going to go in there. I'm going to work as hard as I can because I do not want to feel that pain again. That pain, I got a good memory when it comes to that pain. I always remember that. I have a bad memory of people's names, faces, but that pain, I'll remember that the rest of my life, and I don't ever want that again. So I'm never going to lose a fight because I didn't try to go out there and fight. Like that fight I didn't fight. I tried to not lose. I'm just never going to do that again. I just don't care. I'd rather go out there and get knocked out than just go out there and not give it everything I had. You know what I mean? So, and not just let it all lay out there. So that helped me in many ways, but just helped me in life, man. So I notice that's a common theme with people who do some good things. There's something that motivated them. Nobody just wants to work their ass off for no reason. Oh, I'm just going to work hard. It's like you has to be something, man. People who have it easy in life, I don't think. I've never been that person, so I just don't. I just don't think they have the right. They just don't work hard. Like, you watch TV. You got I've never watched the show, but you got those Kardashians. They're just like, oh, I'm pretty and I do this. Like, you haven't had to work for anything in your life. They're despicable. I couldn't believe they have a TV show, but it's like life's been too easy for you. They couldn't deal with adversity like other people can, I promise.
Yeah, well, it's instant gratification. Like those sort of people, if they can't get shit instantly, like, oh, I need a new car. Bang, if I can't have it instantly, I'm so depressed. Life sucks. Well, no shit, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but this is the thing. It's like not everything in life. If you want something so bad, like say for example, fighting in the UFC, fighting for Bareknuckle, upcoming fight. Oh, I didn't make the UFC. Well, what did you do? Did you put the fucking work in? No, you didn't. You know what I mean? You have to put the fucking work in to achieve shit. If you don't, you can't sit there and blame someone else for not getting an opportunity because that's not how the world works in any fucking thing.
Man, that's how it is nowadays, though. People think like that. People think they're entitled to this. They get this, and you got guys who've worked at a job for 2 weeks. I want that promotion. Like, well, this guy's been here 5 years. Yeah, I want it. Well, you haven't done shit to earn it. What are you talking about? You don't. That's not how any of this works. What are you talking about, man? It just boggles my mind that people don't quite understand. But that's just how our society is going, and I can't stand it, man. But that is one good thing. Sports. You have to earn it, and if not, you're not going to get there. And I really don't give a shit if you're depressed about it. It's not my job to not make you depressed. You have to understand and work harder to make this happen. And if not, then hey, I'm sorry about it. You're going to have a tough life. But I mean, I love I mean, all the failures in your life make the successes that much better. You know what I mean? If everything was good, if you won all the time, it would take the fun out of it to me. I mean, I don't know, I've never been that guy who could win it all the time. You know what I mean? So if I don't understand that mindset, but man, all my victories were super sweet because I know what I had to do to earn that stuff. And that makes it fun to me. That's the struggle is the glory, man. The struggle and all the time is what makes this stuff fun. If it were easy, anybody would do it, and nobody wants to do this shit because it's terrible. It's man, people always talk about like with wrestling, was wrestling fun? I'm like, nah, wrestling's not fun. Wrestling, it's rewarding, very rewarding. I was like, roller coasters are fun, man. You want fun, go do that. You want something that's not rewarding, you want to know that you've done some work and achieved something, go into a wrestling room and deal with that for day in, day out, lose weight, cut weight, get beat on, and go out there and then pin the guy. That's a good feeling. That's rewarding feeling.
Do you feel like, shows like The Ultimate Fighter, for example, like, do you feel like over the years that the show's been on, we won't name names or anything, but do you feel like there's been guys that are like, fighters that go on that show just to get a bit of clout, to get like, you know what I mean? Like clout chasing to a certain extent, just to get their face on TV. Like, yeah, I'm an MMA fighter. I've had a couple fights. Yeah, it's my dream to be in the UFC, bro. Get on reality TV. You know what I mean? Like, is that the thing you think that the clout chasers really sort of go to?
Of course, man. Man, you got to understand there's a lot of guys at every gym who you be like, why are they at the gym? They're at the gym to tell people I'm a fighter. That's the only reason. So I train, I do this. Like they go at the bar and they got the tight ass affliction shirt and they're walking around. And it's like, that's why they fight. And the guys who are more athletic and can actually get on the Ultimate Fighter, yeah, it's all just about so they can go around and brag about what they've done. I mean, but man, if you're not in there day in and day out grinding, working, you ain't gonna make it at that level. And a lot of people don't have that mindset or mentality. Yeah, they just want to go out there and they love everything about being a fighter except for the hard work and the actual fighting part. Like they like the clout and they like the lifestyle and they like the respect that it brings. They just don't want to go out there and do the work. They just want to go out there and be on the reality show. Like I was on the Ultimate Fighter and oh man, every season they got to put guys like that on there because the reality of it is, when the Ultimate Fighter was big, like let's say you have a weight class 185, you can only put 3 or 4 new guys, and you can't all of a sudden sign 8 people to the UFC. There's not enough wiggle room in there for the weight class. Then you have to get each of those guys, so many, like 3 fights here, that'd be 24 new spots. They don't have any roster spots to put, so you can only sign a few guys. So they want to put on the Ultimate Fighter about 3 or 4 good guys, and then about 3 or 4 guys who are clowns who make good TV, who the good guys can beat up. That's what I would do if I'm putting a reality show on. And I, as a business standpoint, you got to look at everything from their point of view. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get some guys who are going to come out and be very well hyped up because they did real good on the show. But these other guys made people watch the show because they, got drunk and tried to do a backflip in a pool and landed on their head or something. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, or just wanted to bang, bro.
Hey man, that's one of our BKFC guys. Well, he was. He's fighting for other people now. But Julian Lane, yeah, exactly, the perfect example, man. People want to watch that stuff because he's out there yelling that, and they're getting in fights with each other, and they're acting like idiots, man. I did like that about being on my season. Everybody was like UFC veterans and respectful. You know what I mean? And we didn't act like idiots, but I don't think I could deal with those people who were just trying to go out there and, get Instagram followers and make a name for themselves. I'd have been like, dude, you got to go.
100%. So one of the things I want to ask you about UFC 68 versus Matt Hughes, that at the time, was that pretty much, you feel like, your biggest fight of your career at that point?
At that point, for sure. He just came off losing his title. Before that, being like the most dominant welterweight champ of all time, just dominating everybody. And I was really excited for the opportunity to fight him, but it was kind of a weird fight because that was right after I just lost, and that was when I just came up with my mindset. I was like, man, I'm gonna try to knock people out or submit them or whatever. I'm not gonna try and go out there and do anything else. So I remember right away they're like, Matt's gonna try and stand with him. I'm like, no, he's not. I'm like, yeah, he will. I was like, all right. I went out and I threw a big combination right away. And I remember his eyes, he was just like, it's like, this ain't what I thought was going to happen. So then right away, he started trying to take me down. And right away, I had him in a good submission. I had him in a guillotine. I was like, I got this dude. I got him. And I realized, I mean, he's very highly skilled because I remember I had a good choke on him, but all he did was I had to get my foot away to push his hips away because I had to choke in. I had one foot over his back. If I could have got the other foot away and pushed his hips away, it would have been a good time. But then he just had his two hands on my one leg and was holding it right there. It's like, damn, he knows all I have to do is push his hips away and he's in trouble. And he just stopped that from happening. So I was like, man, this guy, I mean, you can say whatever you will. He was highly skilled. He knew exactly what he was doing. He held it out until I couldn't do anymore. And then he moved on and he fought a very smart, safe fight because his goal was, like I talked about, he had that I can't lose mentality. Now I'm going to try and win this match. So he just tried to hold me down the whole time. And, he'd wait till there was, 20 seconds left and try to do a submission. I'd get on top at the end, get out of it and throw some punches and that'd be it. So it was I thought it was a boring ass fight too, and it pissed me off because I don't want to be in a boring fight. I was trying to make a good fight, but it takes two to make a good fight, and he fought a smart fight, not a good fight.
And I feel like where that's the thing where experienced grapplers and wrestlers can really sort of do that. And by the sound of it, like Matt Hughes's mentality for that fight was like, I can't, you know what I mean? Like I can't lose. I think he just came off from losing the welterweight title shortly before that. So in his mindset, he's got to sit there and go like, oh, all right, I've got to get back up to that level of being the man for the welterweight division. So, if I've got to grind a fight out or two, that's what I got to do.
That's exactly what happened, because like I said, they talked about him trying to do more stand up before that. And I was like, he ain't going to stand. He's not going to risk it with me. He's going to have that mindset. I know he thought he just lost to St. Pierre in the rematch. And so he's like, I got to get another fight with St. Pierre. And he's like, I guarantee that fighting me is like, okay, I'll try and do what I can. If it turns into a tough fight, I'll just win a decision and, move on and try and then get back and fight for my title again. I was like, all right, but, I was hoping I could catch him with a punch or a submission or something. But I knew I wasn't going to get him a decision on this asset because, I mean, he's so good at what he does. That's what he does. I knew it was going to be a tough fight. But my thought process in my head, I was like, man, I was right there. If I beat Sarah, I get the title, and it didn't happen. So I was like, all right, I got to do something to get right back on that title hunt. What am I going to do? This fight, if I beat Matt Hughes, that puts me right back into the title. So I was willing to take that, the high risk, high reward.
Yeah, 100%. And, you mentioned, fighters sort of just grinding out, that kind of like the Josh Koscheck fight that you had was kind of like the same way. Like, I think like he got punched a couple of times and was like, all right, shit, I got to, and, like Koscheck's kind of career, like I find as soon as he sort of like got in trouble on his feet and he'd sort of take it down and grind fights out. And we saw it like on The Ultimate Fighter with his Chris Lieben fight. He just sort of took him down and just laid on him, put the pressure down on him, very similar style to that. Were you frustrated in that fight?
Oh, hell yeah, man. I remember it was funny too. Same thing. He's going to stand. All he does is train stand up anymore. I said, he is not going to stand up with me. I promise. They go, yeah, he will. I was like, man, I didn't even really want to take that fight. Not because I just knew all I wanted to fight anymore was exciting fights. I was winning bonuses, fight of the nights. I was like, man, if you'll fight me, I don't care if it's on the feet or on the ground. Like, if you come after me and try and finish me, I'll fight your ass. But I don't want a guy who's going to try and fight a decision because they're boring. It takes, like I said, it takes two to tango. It takes two to put me in a fight. I can't make it a good fight if you don't want it to be. And so they're like, oh, he'll stand up with this. All right. I said, he won't go to. And he didn't. All he did was try to take me down. And he did. And, man, got side mount, busted me open with some elbows. But, man, he never hurt me in any way. So, like, at the end of the fight, I'm up. And I could tell he was tired, man. So I was like, all right, man. I felt like if that fight had another couple minutes in him, I feel like I could have caught him. I caught him with a couple good punches and everything. But I do one thing I like about that. If you look at that fight, there's a picture of me standing up and I'm just covered in blood. And but I'm just like, no, I'm not done. We're gonna keep fighting, dude. I still think I can knock your head off, man. If you let me, just keep coming in, man. I remember at one point in that third round, I was bleeding real bad, and he shot in. I had a really good guillotine, and I was like, I got him, but there was so much blood. He was slick, and he rolled right out of it. I think it was, I don't know if it was the blood or the sweat or whatever. He was able to get out of it because of the blood. So It is what it is. But I did like that fight too, just because it's like, man, that's another one. I'm like, you're not gonna make me quit. I'm not gonna stop no matter what until. Like, that was the thing. Like, I never got knocked out or submitted in any fight. I got stopped due to 2 cuts, but I mean, once again, with my mindset that I talk about, me just feeling like I can do anything now because I was like, you ain't stopping me in a fight. I'm never gonna quit. I always try to look at it like this. If this was a real fight, let's say there's no judges, no rules, no ref. If we're fighting for our lives, what's gonna happen? And I'm like, to my mind, I've never lost a fight. Like, I've never not been knocked out. I mean, like, at the end of the day, I think I kill you and I live. You know what I mean? If this were the apocalypse, if this were like whoever wins this fight lives, the other person dies, like, I think I'm gonna still alive and everybody else is dead. That's the way I see it in my head. You know what I mean? So I feel good. I have that ability to say that because I just never quit in a fight.
Yeah. And you know what? That's like the other fight that I watched recently was the fight with Marcus Davis at UFC 93. And going into that fight, both of you guys said, "Hey, we're going to stand there, and we promise you, we're going to stand there, and we're just going to trade."
Yeah.
And that was exactly what you did, and it was just an absolute phenomenal fight. Davis, to me, like yourself, just iron jaw, and it was like, I remember the lead up to this fight. I was so excited. This was the most exciting fight on this card for me because I was like, all right, these are 2 guys that can throw hands, that are tough motherfuckers with like strong jaws, and this is going to be a war. And it didn't disappoint.
Yeah, I mean, those are the fights I was looking for. Those are the fights I want. Those are the fights that get me excited. That's what I want to do. So when he's like, "Yeah, we'll take him my feet," I'm like, "Yeah, we will. I promise. I'm not trying to take. Have you ever seen me shoot or try to take anybody down in the UFC? It doesn't happen. I can. No. I just don't like it. I mean, I'd rather sit there and try. Like I said, I've never been in a fight where I was like, "Oh, I can't deal with this guy's stand up." It just never happened, and I don't think it will. I'd love to go in there and just bang with anybody. I might not win them out, but I mean, they're gonna know it's a fight. It's gonna be a good one. I promise. So, yeah, that was it was funny though, man. You go into, he was the Irish hand grenade. So I remember at one point, they were obviously cheering for him. So I remember one point, bam, I landed a good left hook and he kind of wobbled him. I'm thinking, ooh, crickets. Nobody said a word. I remember right after he threw a kick and I blocked it and the crowd erupted. I'm thinking, man, that's not good. You know what I mean? Because say whatever you will, judges and they get affected by that, man. When people think, man, he got a hometown decision, people think they ripped him off. They did, but not really. I mean, I think a lot of times they're just like anybody else, and they get affected by the crowd's reaction. So when I talked to one guy, and he said they would strategically put fans behind judges at certain times. And every time anything happened, they yell just to affect the judges. I mean, that's a strategy because that's a real thing, man. If I'm judging us and I hear people going nuts, you're thinking, okay, even if it didn't land as much, you think it did. So, another one of my split decisions. I think I've lost 5 in my career, so it is what it is. But now it was a fun fight.
Do you think that that's like some promoters will do that as a political thing where there's like, oh yeah, this fight is my boy, so we're gonna put put like loud fans over here behind the judges just to fuck with? Like, have you been fucked over like politically before, like in the fight game?
Like I said, I've lost 5 split decisions. A lot of them been on the road, but I mean, like I said, I don't know if I caught like that. I mean, in my eyes, but I should have done more. You know what I mean? I guess I can't blame the judges. I didn't stop the guy, but I definitely think, like I said, I don't think it's judges being bad people or being trying to screw people over. I think they're just human beings, and they get caught up in the hype too. And if the crowd's going nuts, it affects them. I mean, you can't help but be affected by that. So I don't think it's anything nefarious. I mean, I think the promoter, if they're a good promoter and they want their guy to win, yeah, they should put people behind they should put fans there, like every time something happens, you know what I mean? They should do that. And I've talked to people and they have done that. I mean, it's a strategy to use. It works.
Do you think major promotions shouldn't have judges at cage side? They should have them like, I don't know, if a private room or something like that where they can sort of watch it and then they can sort of analyze the fights. You know what I mean? Do you think that they could do it that way where it's away from the crowd, away from like, you know what I mean? Like take the personal thing out of it?
No, I don't think so. I just think we need to have what I would like to see, to be honest with you, I want all judges and all referees to be former fighters. I want them to understand it from a different point of view. I want fighters who understand the sport and fought there for a while. That's what we should have doing this stuff. I don't want to judge a who's never been in a fight in their life and like, well, I think it'd be smarter to have people who understand a little bit better in there. But I mean, I don't think it pays a lot, and a lot of the fighters like, I'm not doing that. But that's who I'd like to see: former fighters who understand things doing a lot more judging and refereeing.
Do you think the reason why we don't see that as well, like as far as like former fighters being refereeing and judges, is because it's like there could be allegiances with fighters, like, oh, this young guy from the you're from Jackson's MMA. I'm one of Greg Jackson's boys.
They would have to stop. You wouldn't be allowed to referee somebody's fight from your camp. You don't have to put a new referee in or a new judge. They'd have to have alternates for that one because you couldn't do that. That wouldn't be fair. Man, it's funny. Back in the old school, they did that all the time. I remember fighting on one of Monty Cox's shows. Like the referees or the judges, like Jeremy Horn, somebody else. It's like, well, you're fighting one of their guys. Who you think's going to win? You know, you can't have judges who were trained at that gym. But man, back in the 90s, early 2000s, Wild West, baby, everything was fair game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like once they sort of started like legitimizing MMA and, you know, bringing in, making things official judges, making the rules, you know, specific weight classes, I think it took MMA to the next level, you know, and it really launched, you know, mixed martial arts to, you know, great heights.
It had to be done eventually. You know, when you're under the radar, you can do these other things. You know, you can have the Wild West days when you're under the radar. When you're under the microscope and when you're on ESPN, that's not going to fly. You have to be legitimate then.
What do you think of like do you see the shit that's in Russia and stuff where they've got like 4-on-4 MMA fights and fucking Batman and fucking Robin versus Spider-Man and Super, you know what I mean? Like when you see that shit, do you just like, is that to you insulting to see? Like, that's like, man, this fucking takes our sport back 20 years.
Man, I guess in a way I don't see it like that. It's a gimmick and I don't want anything to do with it. But, you know, if those people, I guess, are just trying to make a buck, I don't know. They're just trying to go out there. And I don't know what life's like in Russia now. Maybe times are tough. I mean, things are crazy over there. I mean, I'm not going to participate and watch it. It's good to watch, but time I mean, it's not fighting. You know what I mean? It's just a different spectacle, different sport. I mean, 4-on-4 is crazy. That's not a real fight. I mean, I don't care how good you are. It doesn't mean you're a good fighter if you win that or if you lose. You're not. I don't know. It is what it is. I hope nobody tries to call that MMA. You know, it's just its own sport and it's a gimmick and whatever, man. If you can make a few dollars, I guess go ahead. But I'm out. I don't want anything to do with it.
I saw the 4-on-4 fight, and it was an elimination fight, and basically one team just wiped through these guys. But if you eliminate one guy, other guy who eliminated him still stays in the fight. So there was one guy getting the shit kicked out of him by three guys. I'm like, this is a fucking mugging. This is not a fucking sport.
Once one guy gets out, then it's 2-on-1, then it's 3-on-1. It's like, this is like I mean, it doesn't matter how good you are. You're not beating 4 guys. So I mean, it's and all the fights last about 2 minutes, you know, because as soon as one guy taps out, then 2 guys are on one. I mean, it's not a real sport. It's crazy. I'm like, this is stupid. I mean, whoever would want to do it, you're getting hit. You can't defend yourself. It's just crazy, man. Why would you want to do that? It's not. Yeah, it's a mugging. It's stupid, but
it's also watch it. But it's also like the backyard fights and, you know what I mean? Like where like the street fight sort of thing that they had, like I think in the early to mid 2000s where we saw like guys who came from, you know, into MMA, you know, starting from there.
Yeah. I mean, Kimbo Slice, he was a big one. I mean, George Masvidal came from that kind of a thing, man. So, I mean, you can get some good fighters out, but I mean, it's just a messed up thing when that's the avenue people came from. It is crazy, man. And like I said, if people are making money out of it, you're not going to stop it. But man, typically, of all the people in there, you're not getting. There's a few little fighters that come out there, but man, good fighters that want to go to a gym and train. I mean, it's just I don't know, man. I never really got into watching any of the backyard fights or the street brawls. I'm a purist. I'm a fan of like real fights, but.
So am I. I'm a fan of real fights. I've seen that other stuff, and when I see it, I just like, I don't know. For me, like you said, you don't call it MMA, don't call it boxing, call it street fighting, whatever, because you know it is. You do see some good fighters come from that, but for the most part, it's kind of like, I don't know, very carny type of style.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
But it is that time of the show for Guess the
Let's hear
Aussie
it.
Slang. So how this is going to work, I'm going to fire an Australian slang words or phrases, and Lights Out Lytle is going to have to tell me what the meaning is. If he gets it right, we'll give him a round of applause. If he gets it wrong, that's that. So, all right, you ready to get this started, Chris?
Let's do it.
All right. First word is arvo. Arvo. And I'll put it in a sentence. Oh, mate. I might get stuck into a few beers this arvo.
This evening, Avo.
Arvo. Afternoon.
God, come on, man. That was an easy one. Come on, Chris. It's embarrassing.
All right. All right. So here's another one. Oh, mate. The Avos are pretty fresh. Do you want me to grab you a couple? Avo.
Avo. Avocados.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So next word is aggro. Aggro. And I'll put in a sentence. Mate, why are you getting so aggro? Aggro.
Aggravated.
Yeah, I'll give it. It's more like aggressive. So yeah, we'll give that.
If you're aggravated, you're mad.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a few more that we can do. Now this one is bogan. Now I'll put it in a sentence. My uncle Ronnie is a dead set bogan.
Bogan. Asshole.
No. So a bogan in Australia is like what you would call a redneck over in the US. So that's
Okay.
our version of a redneck. So a bogan would be, would talk something like this. Hey, go on, Chris. You want to go down to the pub, mate? We'll get a couple of fucking schooners, mate. We'll pick up a couple of Sheilas, mate. Have a schnitto, and we'll see how we go. Hey, come on, mate. Let's go crack it. That's
Crocodile Dundee. Yeah.
Like someone who's like an uneducated, bit rough around the edges. So,
Okay, I like it. Okay, but Bogan.
Bogan, yeah.
Bogan. I remember that.
Okay, so this next one, dog's breakfast. Oh shit, mate, that looks like the dog's breakfast.
Vomit. Puke.
So complete chaos, a mess. Oh, it's the dog's breakfast. It's crazy.
Oh man, yeah.
All right, so we'll go another one. This one is root rat. Root rat. Root rat.
Okay.
And I'll put in a sentence. Mate, I got to introduce you to my cousin Ray. He's a dead set root rat.
Vegetarian.
No, so a root rat is someone who is just like sex on the brain, like they're just out to get as much, just to get as much sex as they can. You call them a root rat or a dirty root rat. So yeah, that's like always their main goal. So
okay,
all right, I got a couple more for you. So this is piss. 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 Hey Chris, I'm having a barbie. You want to come over and get on the piss?
Get on the piss.
Or would you like to come and drink some piss?
Beer?
Yeah, I'll give that. So yeah, drink piss, get on the piss, drinking alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. We got one or two more. So
that means something different in America. Don't come with that.
Okay, well, all right. So here's another one. So this one is budgie smuggler. Okay, budgie smuggler, and I'll put it in a sentence. Oh, mate, my old man just turned up to my house to go for a swim in my pool. He's wearing his budgie smuggler.
Speedos.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So Last one, and this is going to be a multiple choice. There's going to be multiple in here, and this is what they're going to be.
Feed me.
So it's servo, durries, bottle-o, slab, Maccas. And I'm going to put all this in a sentence for you. Hey, Chris, can you do me a favor? Can you swing past the servo, pick me up a pack of durries, then swing past the bottle-o, grab us a slab, and then maybe swing past Maccas? So the first one is servo, and I need you to pick up some durries at the servo.
Okay, durries are cigarettes and servos a store. Like a gas station store.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Service station, gas station, durries are cigarettes. And the next one was bottle-o and slab. Can you go to the bottle-o and pick up a slab?
I'd have to think Bottle-o's liquor store.
Yep.
Slab is probably going to be, I was either going to say like a case of beer or some alcohol.
Yeah, you're right. That's what we call a case of beer a slab. So there you go. And the last one on that one was Maccas.
Use that in a sentence again.
Can you swing past and grab some Maccas?
Maccas, what the? Some weed? I don't know. Weed?
No, Maccas is an abbreviation that we use for McDonald's.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So you've played the Aussie slang game. So as you'd see there, that we add, we make it Maccas, or so we abbreviate everything. So we add an O to anything. So it's like, oh, g'day Chriso or Chrissy or Chris. We always will abbreviate something. Like my name Piers, my family will call me Piercy. And it's like, why do you call me that? Oh, just to make it shorter. I go, do you realize you're adding letters to my name?
That's the opposite.
But that's been the Aussie slang game with Chris. Lights out, Lytle. Chris, thank you so much, for participating in the game. Thank you for the time. An hour and 30 minutes has just gone past so quick. I'd love to get
fast,
you back
man.
on this again.
It went fast.
I think we should.
By the way, I thought I would do better at that game. I've been to Australia 3 times now. I love it down there, man. I fought in Sydney twice. I'm sure you probably didn't realize that, but I love Sydney. Went to Bondi Beach and Manly Beach. It was an awesome place, dude.
Oh, man, next time you're in Sydney, man, we'll have to catch up and go for a few beers and, show you more of the sides, brother.
A few beers. We're gonna get the piss. No, a slab. We're gonna have a slab and drink the piss. Is that right?
We're gonna get on the slab and drink some piss.
Yeah, see, I'm getting it. So I'm bringing up. People are like, what the hell's he talking about? Oh, you better not be messing with me. I show up in Australia and people are like, you want to drink piss? What the hell's wrong with you? I mean, go on. Just messing with me, man. Yeah, I like it.
But Chris, where can everyone find you? Social media. Where can they follow you? Where can they check out Bareknuckle FC?
Chris Lights Out Lytle on Instagram. Chris Lytle on Facebook. But yeah, man, if you are not watching the BKFC, something's wrong with you, man. Something severely wrong with you. The BKFC is the cheapest, the best deal. It's only $4.99 a month, and we put on 2 fights a month. You get every fight. The whole year, you can get a whole year of fights for the same price of one UFC. So if you're not doing that, something's wrong. It's more entertaining. I think like UFC, I would say probably maybe like 30% of the fights, maybe 40 or what I'd say really good and exciting. Some of them are boring, but I mean, I'd say Bareknuckle's the opposite. We probably have 80% are really exciting, maybe 20% not as exciting. So, I mean, just highly exciting the whole time. Watch us out on BKFC. You get the ad. You can hear me commentate. Yeah.
Go check it out. Check out Chris Lights Out Lytle on commentary. Again, Chris, thank you so much. An hour and 30 minutes has gone by just like that. We have to do a part 2, I think, because I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have as well. But absolutely, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, hit a bell to stay notified. On a podcast platform, please 5-star review. Make sure you subscribe, follow. It helps us bring more amazing conversations to more amazing people. But guys, take care. We'll see you all very soon. All the best. Peace.